Heels in the Sand, a Beachside Drag-edy. Brought to you by Rafael Sparkles, internationally unknown drag fiction icon, fierce, feral, and fabulously full of hot air and hotter characters. The atmosphere in the dressing room at Playa del Pex Beach Club was thick enough to contour. It tasted of desperation, setting spray, and the faint, microwaved ghost of a DJ's career. "Update from the front lines," Patty O'Furniture announced, scrolling on her phone with a look of profound disgust. She was in what she called her post-apocalyptic loungewear, a caftan, flip-flops, and a towel turban where her wig, a majestic blonde beehive named Marge, was supposed to be. DJ Daddy Issues has officially melted his USB stick. Our 2 p.m. slot is now a vibe-based temporal concept. Across the room, Glitterbomb Galore stood rigid, a 7-foot monument to fury in fuchsia sequins. Her wig, a volcano of crimson curls, seemed to smolder with indignation. Her face was a masterpiece of impenetrable paint. "This," Glitterbomb declared, her voice a low, vibrating growl, "is a hate crime. My contour is settling. This is a humanitarian crisis." Patty sighed, the sound of 1,000 broken dreams. "So we sit here and photosynthesize?" Glitterbomb's eyes, framed by lashes that could double as small bats, narrowed. Her gaze locked on the shimmering expanse of sand outside. An idea, terrible and magnificent, was born. "No, Patty, we promenade. We require inspiration." Patty stared. She stared at Glitterbomb. She stared at the 6-inch diamond-encrusted stilettos on Glitterbomb's feet. "A promenade on sand in those? Are you clinically insane?" "These aren't shoes," Glitterbomb corrected, fluffing a curl. "They are structural obligations. It took a team of engineers and 3 Hail Marys to get me into them. The process is non-reversible. And do not worry about the sun." She patted her flawless cheek. "This is a German formula. SPF 1000, shade delusion." Patty rolled her eyes so hard she saw the back of her own skull. "It's Krylon, gal. It was designed for stage lights, not the actual surface of the sun. You're going to melt like a cheese fondue in hell." "Then I shall perish fabulously," Glitterbomb declared, kicking open the door. "To the beach!" The beach was a glittering buffet of chaos. Glitterbomb took 1 step onto the sand and immediately sank 4 inches. There was a pause, a moment of pure, unadulterated horror. Then, with the sheer force of will that only a queen on the verge of a public meltdown can muster, she began to move. It wasn't a walk. It was a series of vertical, stiletto-based hate crimes against the very concept of sand. Thunk! Right heel pierces the earth's crust. Thunk! Left heel creates a new geological survey point. Thunk! A small crab is narrowly missed and immediately seeks therapy. Patty, meanwhile, glided beside her in flip-flops, sipping a suspiciously strong-looking iced tea from a glittery flask. "Having fun, sweetie? Aerating the beach for the common good? It's very community-minded. It's called creating a moment, something you know nothing about in that caftan." Her gaze swept the horizon, hungry for victims. The commentary began. Patty, we are not just walking. We are conducting a field survey of tragic life choices. Take notes. The commentary began as they thunked past their first subjects, the instigays. It was a trio of men, bronzed to the color of a luxury handbag, engaged in a silent triangular war of ab definition. They weren't sunbathing. They were curating their own existence in real time, subtly shifting a leg here, arching a back there, all while pretending to be asleep for a candid shot one of them would post with the caption, "Lazy Days." Glitterbomb paused, her heel sinking perilously close to a discarded juice cleanse bottle. "Look at them," she whispered, with the reverence of a biologist discovering a new, particularly vapid species. SPF, self-promotion factor. They're so thirsty the tide is receding out of respect. The only filter they truly need is a personality. By the time they agree on a photo, their spray tans will have oxidized into a new shade of orange, Patty mumbled into her flask. Their path of destruction led them next toward a shimmering horde of the circuit clones. Dozens of them, all in identical microscopic black shorts, and the same vacant 1,000-yard stare that comes from hearing a Kylie Minogue mix 4,000 times in 72 hours. They moved with the slow, existential dread of men whose serotonin receptors had officially filed for divorce. They look like they're running on 3 hours of sleep, a single popper, and the distant memory of a vowel, Patty observed, taking a long, sympathetic sip. It's a collective cry for help set to a 128 BPM beat, Glitterbomb agreed, nodding sagely. Tragic. Moving on. Finally, they approached the large, dark rocks near the edge of the water. The area had been colonized by a different tribe entirely. The Bear Den. A gathering of large, comfortable, gloriously hairy men were laughing around a cooler that looked like it could survive a direct missile strike. They weren't posing, they weren't curating, they were grilling sausages on a tiny portable barbecue, their chests covered in a proud, magnificent pelt of actual sun-warmed hair. They looked relaxed, unbothered, and entirely too content. Glitterbomb stopped, her heel quivering in the sand with pure disdain. "Oh, honey, no," she sneered, quietly enough for Patty to hear. "Sasquatch has his summer share. Their idea of a look is just follicles. The only daddy they're interested in is a brand of barbecue sauce. It's an affront to the very concept of grooming." "I don't know, honey," Patty countered, eyeing the sizzling sausages. "They look happy, and that cooler looks suspiciously well-stocked. There's a quiet dignity to it." "Dignity is for people who've given up," Glitterbomb declared, incensed by this display of rugged, low-effort satisfaction. To prove that high-maintenance artifice would always triumph over lazy authenticity, she decided to strike a pose atop the largest rock to serve face for an audience of confused seagulls and comfortable bears. This was a mistake. Her back heel didn't just slip. It found a crevice in the rock with the magnetic attraction of a disaster seeking a venue. A sickening scrunchunk echoed across the beach. Glitterbomb froze mid-pose. She tried to lift her foot. It didn't move. She wiggled. The rock held her fast, a stony troll demanding a toll of dignity. The 7-foot monument to fuchsia was now an involuntary glitter-encrusted lawn flamingo. "Patty?" she said, her voice a tiny, strangled squeak. "Oh, my God," Patty breathed, rushing over. "My illusion is crumbling," she wailed, flailing her arms in an interpretive dance of impending doom. The instigates had noticed. Their phones were emerging like periscopes. "Forget your illusion! You're about to have a compound fracture!" Patty yelled, grabbing her arm. They pulled. They strained. The shoe held, but her Spanx made a brief, horrifying guest appearance.
Just as total humiliation was about to claim her, a shadow fell over them. It was a large, hairy, and offensively cheerful shadow. It smelled faintly of charcoal and contentment. It was one of the bears. He knelt not with the fluid grace of a god, but with the practical, knee-cracking grunt of a man who knows how to change a tire. "Woo there," he said, his voice a rumbling, gentle baritone. "Looks like you got yourself into a heck of a predicament." Her jaw went slack. The shade, the wit, the sass, it all evaporated, leaving only a shimmering puddle of pure mortification. He examined her trapped heel with the calm focus of a man unsticking a jar lid. "This is a real pickle." He gently took her ankle in a grip that was surprisingly soft for a hand the size of a catcher's mitt. With a firm, precise twist, he worked the stiletto free. It came out with a sad blorp. He stood up, wiping a speck of moss off the rhinestone-encrusted heel, and handed it back to her. He smiled, a genuine, non-performative, devastatingly kind smile framed by a magnificent beard. The crowd of onlookers sighed collectively. Then he leaned in conspiratorially. He whispered, his breath smelling faintly of beer and high self-esteem. "For what it's worth, that's some impressive footwear. Not exactly all-terrain, though." He gave her a wink that was less flirty and more like a friendly uncle. "Hey, after you get sorted, you and your friend want a bratwurst? We made too many." And with a cheerful nod, he turned and ambled back to his cooler. After a walk of shame that left emotional skid marks in the sand and a full-blown lecture from Patty on the spiritual consequences of refusing a freely offered bratwurst, which may or may not have been a euphemism, they finally clacked their way back into the club. Backstage, Glitterbomb was lying prostrate on a chaise lounge, one arm draped dramatically over her forehead. She looked like a murder victim in a flamingo-themed crime scene. Her face, a smeared Jackson Pollock of waterproof mascara and existential despair, was turned towards the cracked mirror. Patio furniture stood over her, holding an aerosol can of what was either setting spray or industrial sealant. She was not radiating sympathy. "Well, I have good news and I have bad news," Patty announced, her voice as dry as a martini forgotten in the desert. "The good news is your wig is structurally sound. The bad news is your SPF 1000 delusion has been officially recalled by the manufacturer. You look like a knockoff Barbie left on a hot dashboard." It was true. A perfect angry pink rectangle was branded onto Glitterbomb's chest, a searing testament to where her fuchsia sequins had failed to protect her. "He offered me processed meat, Patty," Glitterbomb rasped, not moving. "He witnessed a transcendent being of pure light and glamour having a near-death experience, and he diagnosed my condition as a bit peckish. He didn't see a goddess. He saw a DIY project with a wobbly leg." "You mean when your Spanx tried to escape your body like a fleshy surrender flag?" she shot back, spraying a cloud of powder onto the sunburn. "She saw a flamingo that fell in a ditch, and he offered as a hand. You hissed at him like a feral cat who'd been offered tap water instead of Evian. It was an affront to my art. You turned down free sausage, gal. That's not just a sin, that's poor financial planning. Get up, we have a show to do. Your misery is only billable when it's under a spotlight." An hour later, they didn't just take the stage, they detonated onto it. They were reborn, not from ashes, but from the fires of well-meaning paternalism. Glitterbomb, now in towering platform boots that could safely navigate a minefield, moved with the furious energy of a scorned deity. Patty's sass had achieved a new, terrifying level of clarity. For the finale, a single spotlight hit Glitterbomb. She scanned the crowd, her eyes locking onto a group at the back bar. It was him, the bear. He was laughing with his friends, saw her looking, and raised his beer in a cheerful, uncomplicated, infuriatingly well-adjusted salute. She blew him a kiss so sharp it could have sliced a lime. Then she grabbed the mic, her voice a seductive purr laced with pure acid. "Darlings, gather round for a lesson from Auntie Glitterbomb. Life, as it turns out, is a beach. Sometimes you sink. Sometimes you get impaled on the scenery like a forgotten cocktail umbrella. And sometimes," she paused, letting the tension build, "a large, offensively kind man whose body hair could insulate a small yurt has to rescue you from your own hubris. And never underestimate a man with a well-stocked cooler," Patty screamed from the wings. "He's got his priorities straight." Glitterbomb smirked, tapping a finger on her own chest. "Also a supplementary lesson. While my German-engineered face may be impervious, my décolleté," she gestured to the glowing pink rectangle, "is currently the color of a traumatized lobster. So much for my radiant dew finish. It's a third-degree burn of pure, unadulterated failure." The crowd roared. "But the most important lesson," she finished, her voice rising to a triumphant crescendo as she struck a final defiant pose, "is that glamour is a weapon and beauty is a war, but nothing is more powerful than weaponizing your own humiliation." She leaned into the mic, her eyes blazing. "So, if you're going to be a disaster, make sure you have an audience. And if a kind soul tries to help you, milk it for a standing ovation, you magnificent train wrecks. Cue glitter cannon!"